Welcome back to the channel here on 4World Gaming, and today we've got another Tiermaker for everybody. So on the screen you can probably see we are going to rank the best video game controllers. So I'm going to make a rule for this. Each of us, we can only pick one to put in S tier, and the rest of them we'll just put here.
Yeah, I think a lot of tier lists, some people underrate what the S tier should mean. I think the S tier is like top of the line, like the best, absolutely. So I'm cool with this.
So looking at the bottom, there's a few controllers that we haven't actually used, so we'll probably skip over those ones. Unless you have a good, I guess, argument why you could.
A lot of these, them. Yeah, there are a lot of these that I haven't actually used myself, but I do know, I've seen it from all angles, or I've heard many other people comment on it. So some of them I can sort of make a case for.
Yeah, so if you feel that you can rank it, then we'll go ahead. So let's just start from the start and work our way through it. So that looks like...
The very first one looks like a Sega... I think that's a Genesis, Sega Genesis 3 button remote, or Mega Drive for us. Oh no, or is that it over there?
That looks like it.
That looks like a Genesis remote. Oh, Mega Drive is what it's called over here. So that first one, is that a Sega Saturn remote then? I wonder. Either way, we've never used one, so and I can't really make a case for that one.
No, just state that I've never held a Sega,
a Dreamcast remote,
proper controller in my hands. So. Looks like we've got the DS.
This is the OG 3DS system.
3DS. Yeah.
I bought a black one just like that on launch day in 2011 down in Brisbane. So I'm very well experienced with this. We're talking about how it feels to hold and play. It's fine. It's nothing extraordinary. The circle pad thing was really weird at first. It took some time to sort of get used to, but once you did, it served its purpose. If I'd place it anywhere, I'd just put it in B. I think it's fine.
Yeah, it looks like we've got the XL variant.
It's a 3DS XL. Really, all you can say is it's bigger, so it's a bit more comfortable to hold. So I'd go B tier 2, and it's like above the 3DS.
Alright, here's the Dreamcast.
Dreamcast.
We're on the search for a Dreamcast.
Yeah, we may have one in the studio. Can't say how soon, but keep a lookout for that.
Keep an eye out on our Retro Recall live shows.
That's the European Dreamcast controller too, because it's got the blue logo instead of the orange one. Not that it changes anything else. I've heard these are really comfortable.
Just looking at it, looks like it's, you can fit in your palm of your hands pretty comfortably.
If you look at the back of it, it's got the two big thick triggers on the back, and it sort of comes around like it's sort of curved like the N64, but not as handily. Like if I just get a 64 remote here, just to demonstrate from the setup behind me. So it's kind of like that, but it's not as you got all the space up in the back here. It's not so much like that, so it feels a bit more blocky. That's what I'd imagine from what I've seen, because I've seen a controller, a Dreamcast one in videos and stuff, but until we actually feel one, I'm not sure if I can say actually if I'd rank it then. I do look forward to trying one though.
So I guess we'll leave that for now.
Yeah.
Next up,
DS.
DS.
DSi, I think, because I think that's the face camera on the clamshell bloody bridge.
There it is. Yeah. So I myself have never owned a DS.
I The next two are like virtually the same. They both feel about the same. When you're a kid, so like I had a DS Lite when I was like I don't know, like 8 or something. It's fine, it's perfect, but when the older you get and the bigger your hands get, they can be pretty uncomfortable because they're so small. Like you play Mario Kart DS or something for a long period, your hands are gonna start hurting. I don't know if I'd put it above. I'd probably put it below the 3DS. I'm honestly thinking C tier. I'd say same for the next one too, because that just looks like the regular DS.
Yeah, regular DS, and then
We've got the OG fat DS.
the big boy.
That one I'd put in B tier. That thing's got some nice triggers on it. We had one of those.
So next up, we've got a Game Boy.
The GBA.
The Advance.
Never had one. All my experience with GBA games came from putting the Game Boy Advance games in the bottom of the DS. So I can't comment on that. And that is next one there is a GBA Micro, which I've actually played one before. I had a friend who had one. It's small too, like lives up to the name. I'm not sure if I'd probably just put it in C tier from my experience. Probably bottom of C tier, so below the DS's, because it is small.
Next up, we've got a Game Boy.
Game Boy SP, the red one there.
SP.
Never played one.
No. Well, next up,
Game Boy. I have one of these.
I have fond memories of the Game Boy. Pokemon Red and Blue. It's a pretty comfortable thing to hold. It does the job to be a handheld console. It can be pretty responsive, and it just does what it needs to do. You know, it's one of those things you just take with you, like any other portable thing. But think of it, that portability back in the 90s, unheard of. So it's definitely a game changer.
And I'm gonna assume that this right here is just gonna cover like the whole Game Boy sort of library, because that's the OG model, but you've also got the Game Boy Colors. They because they've sort of got the Game Boy Colors. They've sort of got a curve towards the bottom of them that does help compared to, I think, probably the OG ones. But yeah, they're not really too uncomfortable. The only time that it can be uncomfortable to play one is when a game has like a stupid command that you have to do, like you have to Mortal Kombat 2 for example. I've got that for the Game Boy, and you've got A and B as your punch and your kick. To block, say you're playing it like this, you have to use your finger to reach down to the start button to like block in that game. But that's the game's fault, I guess, for not programming something different. So I think it's actually, what do you reckon first on this one?
I'm thinking C tier.
I think C tier. I'd probably put it
At the top of C tier.
yeah. Because the thing about having less buttons is like it's less things to worry about when you're pressing.
Doesn't want to go to the top of C tier.
Doesn't want to. There you go. Ooh.
Alright, I'll leave you with the GameCube.
This is so tricky.
I'm just going to duck away from the screen, but yeah, tell us about the GameCube.
I'm just going to start by saying we only get one S tier, and it's very tempting to just put this straight into the S tier, because the GameCube controller, it's one of the most comfortable controllers I've ever used. All the GameCube games play on it perfectly. It's huge for Smash Bros. Like, there's a reason Nintendo's made controller adapters for the Wii U and the Switch. The fact they even continue to make it compatible for the Switch, I think that just shows they understand the value of it. Even when you hold one, it's like it's got the curved shoulder buttons. Just your fingers just sit perfectly in them. The handles of the controls on the sides just feel so comfortable. I just need to look at what else is here first. I suppose if I change my mind, we can bump it down and swap it, but put them in S tier.
There's your pick so far for the S tier. Just thinking, do we have one in the studio? I don't think we do.
Don't think so. We don't have a. You know what? We might have. Let's check the. Go back to the set here.
Well,
there's some remotes. We can actually check out some of these other remotes that are in this tier list.
There you go.
Oh, good. That's what I was looking for.
It's the Smash Bros. Gamecube.
Yeah, I was just commenting on how the fact that it's the GameCube controller, but Nintendo has made it available to use for the next 3 systems through either the fact that the Wii just straight up had GameCube adapters, GameCube ports. The Wii U had the adapter, and so does the Switch. So it's like, even they understand that it's just an awesome controller, and there we go, we've got one here just to muck around with. Plus, how can you not love the bloody clicky shoulder buttons on them? So yeah, that's my S tier for now.
S tier. Next up, so that's the Mega
That
Drive.
looks like the Mega Drive.
You've got the
I've got the miniature,
the mini.
so I can't speak on a full-size remote. I can't imagine they'd be uncomfortable at all. They've got a nice curve to them.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I'd feel confident putting it on a spot for now, so we'd probably skip that.
Next up.
That, I
That can
believe...
just stay down the bottom.
Yeah, I'm going to try and guess at what that is though. If I'm wrong, I think that's an Atari Lynx controller. That was their failed attempt at making a 64-bit console to get back in the console business there.
I mean, look at the amount of buttons. It's got almost like a number pad down the bottom there.
Or hang on, did I say Lynx? Or did I say Atari Jaguar?
You said the Lynx.
Atari Jaguar is what I meant.
But
Lynx
that
was
can
the
just
handheld.
that can just stay right down there.
Yep.
Next up,
Oh, 3DS.
3DS.
The new Nintendo 3DS they
That's
call
right,
it.
it's the new one.
I have one of these too. This is my current 3DS. I think this is actually like the shape's getting a lot better. The circle stick feels more comfortable. The D-pad's fine. It's even got the little second like thumbstick on it, which is like even weirder than the first one. But I think as far as handhelds go, I think this belongs at the top of B tier. This was I feel comfortable playing Smash Bros on that system. That's all I need to know, have to do to know that it's a comfortable controller.
So basically the combination of everything that's come before it and improved on that. Alright, here we go.
Oh jeez.
Nintendo 64.
I just put it down there. Actually, I'm going to grab it again.
Good thing we're in the studio, we can actually feel the controls
Yeah,
and help us rank it.
Oh, what can you say about the friggin' 64 remote?
The 3-pronged controller.
The four-
Controversial at first. Didn't really line up with how controllers were by putting that big middle, but we know what it was for.
It was the first controller to feature the thumbstick, so
And that thumbstick thumbstick. Made this game a lot more fun, Goldeneye.
Actually, Goldeneye itself was awesome because I used to do this all the time when I'd just muck around and play. You look at where the Z button is on this, because that's how you shoot in Goldeneye. It's like you're holding like something with a trigger. It's like you're doing stuff like that and all that. But controversial time here. I love the 64. It's probably my favorite console of all time. This controller sucks.
Yeah.
I think I don't know if I have the heart to put it in D tier, but
I would put C. I'd go C.
bottom of C. I think it's
Yeah.
the bottom of C.
Like, it's just a odd controller to hold. Like, yeah, it's uncomfortable.
The
The wear and
thumbsticks.
tear of it.
Yeah, the thumbsticks are like some of the worst thumbsticks on any controller. Good luck finding like a second-hand remote that doesn't have extremely worn thumbsticks to the point where you play any game, your character's just gonna jog because you can't push it in all the way.
And the joysticks, you know, controllers that you've had, its resting position is just laying down. So
I mean, they did have some cool features though. It's like you plug the memory cards into the bottom here. You plug the rumble pack in there. You plug the transfer pack. I'm just trying to get this out so I can show it off. That's my memory card from my remote. Plug it in there. So it had some cool stuff going for it, but it's just like, how did they come up with this?
yeah, it's not one of the best to hold. Right, up next.
That looks like, I think I see SNK logo on there.
Yeah.
I think that's a Neo Geo.
So
Never
that
played
at
it.
the bottom. Alright,
NES.
the NES, Nintendo
Ooh.
Entertainment System, the block. The rectangle block.
I'm gonna be honest.
I'm gonna put it in a D. I would rank it in D.
The only thing this controller has going for it is legacy. At this
Yeah.
point, it's
Legacy is at the top, it's an A.
it's just
But
square rectangle like corners on it. Like nah.
it's very jagged to hold, it's not very comfortable to hold, it's sometimes very unresponsive with the D-pad.
The buttons can also get pretty worn. I've got a remote or two at home for my NES where I'm playing like Mario 3 or something and I try to jump and the button just gives me nothing.
I mean, it set the precedent for what controllers should be.
It is the standard. You can
It's the
see
standard.
you can see the blueprint of that design in almost every Nintendo controller.
And every other console controller as well, but in terms of,
It's been well
what
surpassed.
we're doing here on this video today, it's right there in the D. Next up, is that a Game Boy?
I don't think that's a Game Boy. That's either what handheld is that?
It's not a Game and Watch, is it?
No.
No. Well, let's just leave it, we don't know.
If
No,
I had to
I've
guess,
no
it's
idea what
like
that
a-
is. That looks like a digital camera.
What's going on there? Is that a phone from? Is that a flip out phone from
So-
2005?
We're going to skip right over. We've got our.
DualShock. Not the
Looks like we're
DualShock.
going to dip into the Sony era. So let's go with the very first ever PlayStation controller.
I don't think we didn't have. I have them back at the previous studio that we had.
Mm-hmm.
I've got two of these.
So the PlayStation controller. You can see heavily influenced by. Well, we haven't really got to it, but the SNES. You can see the basic shape there.
It's because they were almost going to be the same thing at one point.
It's
But
going to be the same thing. But it's got the same button layout with an extra button on the back. It's at the standard of what PlayStation controllers are. But no joysticks for the first iteration. I mean, for what it is, it does the job.
it's
being a
still
controller.
very comfortable. Like I've played some PS1 with it. It's still very comfortable.
And if you look, because like we haven't got to this one yet, and it's kind of bugging me that the Nintendo ones are these? No, they're not in order. They're just. I wish they were all
Some of
together.
them are. Some of them are just.
But you can see like the extra little handles.
That's really all that's missing on the SNES controller, and it's spot on.
I would, yeah. So terms of ranking this one, I put in the C tier.
I'd put it above. I put it the highest in C tier
Yeah,
because it's very comfortable. It's just
at the moment. At the moment, yeah, the Game Boy doesn't want to give up the
just
position
missing some
itself.
features.
But continuing with our Sony run,
We've got this far.
we take this exact controller, we put some joysticks at the bottom, and that's the DualShock.
Iconic design.
So, this is the DualShock 2. So the other one's on the other. So, just a bit of history. So at the PlayStation, they came out with a new version of the controller, which was called the DualShock 1, or retrospectively 1, but DualShock, which added the two joysticks at the bottom. So when the PlayStation 2 rolled in, it was the exact same as the DualShock. I think it had a bit more better vibration feedback in that, but basically the same thing with joysticks.
And the cool thing was you could still plug it into either a PS1 or a PS2. So honestly, the only thing that puts this controller down for me is like revisiting it, because I had a PS2 as a kid. It was just like you don't really pay attention to stuff like that, but the joysticks I do find to be a little I don't know if what the right word is to use here. Just sort of clunky.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't feel like I can be as accurate with it that I can with say a Wii U Pro controller's thumbstick or something. I think it's just the size of
Is that I think I would describe them as dominant over the controller.
yeah, I think it's the size of the top of the thumbsticks. It just feels sort of big and they sort of feel kind of loose. But yeah, that's all I can think of that I don't really like about it. So I think this is the best design of the PlayStation controller. I'm thinking A tier.
A tier. Definitely, it's like we said, it adds the joysticks, which, you know, at the turn of the PlayStation 2, that was pretty much sets the standard for controllers to follow. And yeah, it's so you go to. I would actually go B tier for the PlayStation 2 controller. I just feel that, despite all that, it's still a bit clunky.
I'd be willing to go maybe top of B tier.
Yeah, it's definitely top of B. It just feels just a bit clunky.
Yeah, it's just something with the thumbsticks that's hard to describe.
And the positioning.
They are very close to each other.
Yeah.
And the buttons.
Which leads us to the PlayStation 3.
The DualShock 3.
The DualShock 3, and then it was revamped and became the 6-axis, which added motion controls and wireless. It's now wireless. It's very, very slightly tweaked from the PS2. You can probably see it very.
Shape was a little different. They changed the triggers too, didn't they?
The triggers are a bit higher.
They didn't just press in; they actually like bent in like the Xboxes.
And the joysticks, they were reduced a bit, as you can see there. The only change really was added the PlayStation home button in the middle, replacing select analog. So for the 6-axis,
I've used one before, but not a lot. So I'd say this is all you.
yeah. I'm going to put it here. Only because it's basically the same thing. The 6-axis motion control is completely pointless. I've never used it. The cool thing is for WWE games, you can move the controller around when it switches to first person during the entrances, so you can look around, but apart from that, what's the point of it? which now goes to the PlayStation 4, and you can probably see pretty much the same basic design but tweaked again, slightly modified, same basic shape but moved here and there. The biggest added feature is of course the touchpad on the front, which was used in games, plus the addition of a share button which you can upload straight to your, to YouTube, start recording, things like that. So PlayStation 4, do you have any thoughts on the PlayStation 4 control?
I've used them a little bit. I have to say, I'm not a fan of the bloody thumbsticks on these two. I don't know what it is with PlayStation remotes and their thumbsticks, but I just feel like it's sort of like the same problem with the PS2, but not as bad. Like I played like a couple games like Fortnite on there, and I felt like I could not aim at all with that left stick and like all that. I don't know, maybe it's just I'm not used to them, but that's sort of how I felt using it.
I think it's just the basic design of the PlayStation controller, it's just odd, and we'll probably get a lot of backlash from fans about that. But with that said, it's a lot more sleeker, it's a lot more, a bit more comfortable to hold, so I would actually put this at the top of the B tier for the PlayStation 4 controller. Which now leads us to this guy right here, the PlayStation 5 controller, which is, again, as you can probably see, it's got the same sort of design to it, but much bigger. I don't know, it's just a lot bigger to hold. It's been redesigned, the grips and that. The same button layout, it's got the touchpad. The triggers have been modified. So for PlayStation games, when you come to shoot, the triggers actually have haptic feedback, so instead of having to pull all the way down, it'll actually click in, which is something pretty cool for the PS. What else does this thing have? Actually, one thing we didn't mention about the PlayStation 4 controller, it added the headphone jack, which is good. So this one has a headphone jack, but the thing about this one also, if you don't have a headset, no worries, because it's got a built-in mic. When you're playing online, if you don't want to put your headset on while listening to TV, it's alright, you just press the button and go with it. What do you think of the PS4
I've got to say,
control?
the thing that stood out to me the most was I wasn't a big fan of the actual just like design with the colours and stuff. I'm not a fan of how they removed the purple, bloody red,
The colours of the
green and blue. Yeah, it feels it just looks a bit
tone, monotone.
yeah, and like the whole like sort of weird border around the touchpad thingy.
And the thing that really I noticed is the PS logo, black on black. They could have made that stand out a bit.
It is very comfortable though.
And the colour to it is when you turn it on, you get the little glow, which looks really, really cool. For me, it's probably the best PlayStation controller. It's very comfortable to hold.
I mean, you look at them side by side.
It's been expanded, so I would put the PlayStation 5 controller in A tier.
I agree. And one thing that we haven't been mentioning with some of these remotes is some of like the color variations you can get from. Because if there's a strong point you can say about the 64 is they had some really good colors. Like you saw, well, the one that we've got the clear purple one, but they came in all variations like green, orange, blue,
promotional tie-ins. You have
Gold.
Pokemon.
Yeah, the Pokemon stuff. Same with the DSs, I guess too. The Gamecube, you can get multiple colours.
The PS4.
PS4,
Actually, all the PlayStation controllers really.
and you can safely bet that we're going to get some cool colourways of the PS5 remote. So
Well, they've already announced the Galaxy colour line of the PS5 remote, so I'm happy to leave it there. But then we now move to the PSP.
the OG PSP.
Look, that's the OG PSP because let's look at the Vita next.
Yep.
So
I've only played this the PSP a few times.
So yeah, I used to own a PSP.
Yeah.
It's got the same, well, it's being the PlayStation control. The only thing lacking is the joysticks, which obviously for a handheld it's hard to do, but it does have that little notch underneath the D-pad, which I'd imagine functioned the same as this one here on the DS, the
Sort of,
3DS. Apart from that, I mean, look at the shape. It's odd. It's irregular. It's going there. I don't think it's anything special to hold. Which is a shame because the first, PlayStation portable console, but it's just a bit jagged for me, for my liking.
I seem to remember the triggers being sort of awkward. They were very thin.
It's very thin and they're clicking. So.
And the memory cards like little thin sticks.
Yeah. And even the game themselves, it's different. It's built different. The Vita, same thing, a little bit smaller actually.
Don't think
It
I've
lacks
ever.
a disc drive, so it's a digital only console with the Vita. I don't know why they chose to go smaller because the PSP was pretty small, but I'm gonna put that there. Okay, looks like we've got a Sega.
That is a Sega Saturn controller. It looks like garbage, and I've never used one, so
It does look like garbage.
we're gonna have to skip that. And then, what the hell is that? Is that a Sega logo?
It looks like a Sega logo on it.
I don't think I've ever seen one of these before. I don't know what console. I'm gonna guess that's like a Mega Drive remote because it's got the 6 buttons. But then again, so does the Saturn.
In the
So
colour,
who knows,
so who knows what that is.
And that is a Sega Game Gear. Never used one. It looks very bulky compared to the Game Boy. I don't think you're shoving that in your pocket.
Yeah, I love that screen.
And the screens on them actually looked like really good. It was like full color, bright display, which the OG Game Boy didn't have. But yeah, other than that, I probably never will play one either.
No. Another Sega, but it looks a bit.
That's the Master System, so
Yeah.
it's virtually the NES remote.
Yeah, you can say. Even look at where's the mark there? It's got the red and black and the red.
The D-pad looks a little funky though.
It looks like the
Looks like a TV remote
yeah,
D-pad.
this thing, yeah.
Yeah.
And then it looks like it's got an enter button in the middle. SNES.
Super Nintendo. I think honestly it has all the strengths of the PlayStation remote. Although I will say, because it is a lot bigger, like you look at the amount of space around the buttons compared to on the PlayStation, it honestly is quite comfy. I can play games like Street Fighter which require fast inputs and stuff. I can play it fine on it. 4 button shoulder pads. If the NES was like the blueprint, this was basically an upgrade to that blueprint and it ran from there.
And it took that design, made it sleeker, more comfortable to hold.
Round.
So.
Yep. Big improvement. I wonder.
I'm liking this tier. Just
Yeah.
so you know.
Cause I was thinking of going top of C, but honestly,
would you put 'em
I'd consider
above
putting
the
it
DS's?
just before. Yeah, putting above the DS's. Up there in B tier.
I mean, if you thinking it could go anywhere
Although-
between the PlayStations.
Although I honestly think you could slot it above the PS2. That's what I'm feeling. It's just, this is very comfortable, and plus it's super light. They're so lightweight.
What's we're up to down here?
Down there. That looks like another Master System. Game Gear.
But now,
Joycons.
Joycons. So we're going off the picture, we're assuming they're undocked. So Joycons in the hand. The switches linear.
Joycons. Garbage. D tier.
You just have to. You can't just go past the technical issues this thing has.
Yep. I've replaced the Joy-Cons from my launch day Switch. One of them just straight up stopped working at all. Like, first the light wouldn't light up when on the inside of it, and then from then on it just wouldn't connect at all. I only had one Joy-Con. I've never had any drift issues with them before, but it feels like one in every two people you hear talk about the Joy-Cons say they've had drift problems with them. It's just, the only novelty they have is that, you know, you can sit back, control in each hand, and just play like sitting back and whatever. But other than that, nah.
So that's on their own. What about if they were in the dock? Would that change anything in the cradle, the Joy-Con cradle?
Sort of.
Because we're going to leave it there, but we're just going off topic here.
It's more comfortable to hold, but it doesn't change the fact that the face buttons are still tiny.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know, like when you're playing just a game like Breath of the Wild or something. That I got that game when I got my Switch on launch, and it was fun playing. I thought it was like a comfortable controller, but I actually noticed. I think it has to be a problem with the Joy-Cons. I had my Switch sitting under my TV cabinet behind a glass sort of door that opens up. It was sitting down there behind the glass door, and there'd be times when I would just like lose control for like a couple seconds, or the game Link would just keep running, and I'd let go of the controller. I was like, there can't be that much interference just from one like little glass pane.
And it's weird because when you have it docked with the actual console, for some reason I think it has just a completely different experience.
Yeah,
it's just normal.
It works. It's like you can rest your hand on the control, and the rest of it goes behind it on the Switch. It just feels way better.
But in terms of the Joy-Cons themselves, it's garbage. Which leads us to the Wii U.
Oh, the Switch Pro controller.
Yes, we're back here. Switch Pro.
Switch Pro has got to be one of the most comfortable controllers of the last like two consoles. I'd have no problems putting this in A tier.
Yep.
I don't think we've got one here to show. We probably do, but it's...
Yeah, I've definitely going in A tier.
They're just like, they fit in your hand nicely. The buttons are really big. It's just like...
Yeah. The thing that brings it down for me, this is talking about the official Switch, is that the handles are a bit too short. But you can, and then the thing with the Switch Pro controller is that the different types of controls you can get from third parties. Because I've never actually owned the official one. I've got a big lot of third party controls, so that's got something for it. All the different types of Pro controllers that you can get for the Switch, and you can get the ones with longer handles. But yeah, the joysticks are in a natural position. It's got all the buttons on there.
Nice big D-pad.
The only thing also gets a bit confusing is when you do get those third-party controls, and some of the buttons are switched around. But
the shoulder buttons is usually what goes wrong there.
Yeah, and the home and capture buttons swap down to the start and plus and minus button, but that's just a minor inconvenience.
The only other thing too that I'll say that would probably be the reason I keep it bottom of A tier is it's 2022, and Nintendo still doesn't have Pro controls with headphone jacks.
Yep.
They're a little behind on that.
Yeah, that brings it down. And how do you feel about the battery life of these controls?
Oh, they're really good. You charge them up fully. Well, I've just got a dock that I set on mine, so I don't think I've had a low battery Pro controller for honestly ever.
Yeah, because I was going to say the charging rate of these controllers, if it's going flat, you just put it on for a little while and then pick it up and play again. It goes a bit longer, so it's definitely got that going for it. So going from your conventional handheld controllers to the Wiimote.
The Wiimote.
A controversial, but at the same time revolutionary control for the Wii, released back in 2006,
I think.
2006, as the standard controller for the Wii. It does have an attachment that goes in it, the nunchuck,
Which we do have in the
which is
code here, but you can actually, if you need to look at what a nunchuck is, it's literally just the third, the middle arm on a 64 remote. Even the thumbstick looks the same, and it's got the Z button on the back. So I thought that was a pretty cool callback when they did that.
So the Wiimote, what do we think of the Wiimote?
When it works with motion, it's awesome. When it doesn't, it sucks.
It's a nightmare.
And any game that requires you to play it in a traditional way, you haven't got a lot to work with. Like, I don't know how the hell we used to play Smash Brothers Brawl with a sideways Wii remote. Like, never again.
But I mean, at the time, it was just so like normal. Like some of our top players at Port Royal Smash used that method.
The Wii U.
And on the Wii U, carried through the Wii U. But yeah, like you said, the motion, when it works, it's amazing.
Especially if you've got the Motion Plus.
The Motion Plus.
They ended up just having ones built in with the Wii remote instead of having to plug in that bottom attachment. So
let's assume that this Wiimote here is the one that, the latest iteration of it. So the Motion Plus in it. You know, for me, I'm always a traditional controller player. When it comes to things like motion controls and things like that, it tends to turn me personally off it. That's probably one of the reasons why I didn't get into Skyward Sword when that came out. Game built around the motion controls, which is a shame because I've seen and heard that Skyward Sword is probably one of the best Legend of Zelda games.
You hear it about nearly every Zelda game now, I feel.
Yeah.
Every game's got its fans.
Every game's got its fans. But the Wiimote,
I'm thinking I know where to put it. I say, is it worse than the N64 controller?
see, I don't know, I feel, well, let's just think about the controller when you hold it. I mean, it's not uncomfortable, it's basically holding a TV remote.
Yeah.
And like I said, when the motion works, and it's, accurate, then it's good.
It's like, for a game like Mario Kart Wii, it's awesome.
And just think about when you first get a Wii, and you're playing Wii Sports,
Yeah,
the
Wii
attachments
Sports.
that go with it.
Wii Sports Resort was awesome too.
So I would, can't really go off the games, but the controller, it made you feel like you were actually doing it. And it was just like, so comfortable to hold. I'd put it above the N64. Would you go any higher?
Maybe above the Game Boy Micro? Yeah.
Yep. Now this leads us to the Wii U tablet.
which we do have just behind us here.
We have in the studio. So this is what set the standard for what would become the Switch.
It's big
It is big.
compared to the Switch tablet.
But also this came out at a time when tablets were being released. So, you know, everybody had tablets. So I feel that maybe the size of it isn't really a factor.
Nah, I honestly think it's fine. The only drawbacks I see with this remote was it's because it's like a big unit. It's not something you can easily get replaced. So it was like, say you messed up one of the thumbsticks or something, your only option was to call Nintendo and get a replacement or so. But it was a TV remote too. It's got the TV button on there. Like, it's awesome. How awesome was that?
And when you actually grip it, it's got the mold at the back.
Yes.
Full grip, which is good. With all that, it's a shame that games didn't really capitalise on the use of it. I know it had its off-screen play and all that, but yeah, the Wii U Tablet. What about the screen? What do you think of the screen of it?
I remember the first time I saw the screen, because I hadn't played my Wii U in years. The first time I saw the little screen turned on, I'd forgotten how underwhelming the quality is of it. It almost looks like 480p or something.
Yeah.
But it was like their first crack at it. It honestly wasn't bad. The touchscreen works fine. It's big enough, I feel. And it was big enough to play fully fledged games on it. Like I used to, when I was playing through Zelda Twilight Princess years ago, I'd put it into gamepad only mode. I'd sit with the gamepad in my lap like this, and I'd like play with the Wii remote and nunchuck like that. Like I'd be playing full on games just using this. So I think the screen served its purpose.
Well, with the screen too, this is a bit of a behind-the-scenes fact that Port Royal Smash, we didn't have Elgato back. We were very, very low budget Port Royal Smash in the early days. So what did we do? We had the game, that Wii U Tablet. We had a camera pointed at the screen, and that's how we got our shots. And they came out pretty good.
It worked.
It worked. Yeah, the tablet. It's got the Amiibo thing on it as well. But where would we put this?
I'm gonna be honest. Might be more comfortable than the DS's.
Yeah. It's got that mold at the back as well. So.
But would we even consider the 3DS's?
Oh, you're saying up here?
Mm.
I'm happy with that.
Yep. Put them there.
It's very, very tantalising to go. But,
Ooh.
maybe there even.
What?
Oh,
We've actually got both those controllers right next to each other on the floor here right now.
It is big, there's a lot of space. Volume. It's got triggers, both triggers. And well, the thing that gets it also is it's got full joysticks, like proper size joysticks.
Yeah, like for the tablet that size, the PlayStation joysticks are still bigger.
Yeah. The only problem I'm seeing, I don't know if I'm just being nitpicky, but the face button's very close to the stick. But You know what, I'm happy to leave it right there where it is.
Yep.
Ooh, who would have thought that ranking the Wii U Tablet would be so tough? But now we come to the Wii U Pro. Here it is.
Right.
I think I already know where this one's going to go. But, tell us
I liked
your
the
thoughts about it.
I liked the Pro controller. I used it, well, whenever I played my Wii U, because I rarely played games just on the gamepad itself. So if I was ever playing the Wii U, I was using this, and I never really had any problems with it. The shape is a little funny at times. It's like the handles are very pointy, but it fits in your palm nicely. You can the thumbsticks are perfect. It's actually pretty similar to the Switch Pro controller, I'd say. I actually remember when this controller first came out, I thought like it was so similar to the 360 remote. I was like, they have to just like, there has to be something going on between them that they'd let them just use this design.
See, for me, I feel that this controller, where the thumbsticks are, is in the perfect position. I think it's the perfect size. It's the most comfortable controller. One of the most comfortable controllers to hold. Like, I'm gonna do it.
Oh!
I'm gonna do it. This is my S.
Dang. S tier?
S tier for the Wii U Pro controller. Who would have thought? But like I said, it's just so comfortable to hold that everything is just in a natural position where you can get to where you need to be. The only problem is I feel the triggers probably let down a bit because
They are
trials around
very
the time had that went down like that.
Not much to push them in.
Yeah, where these are clicking, so
They're buttons more than they're like whatever you say.
yeah, they're buttons more than triggers.
Yeah.
But it had a good battery life too. This thing would last hours.
Yeah, I'd charge mine and then not play my Wii U for like a solid year or so, and then still have a bit of charge in it.
Does this have any charge? No, this one's dead, but the Wii U.
And I believe we have.
I had a thing where I had I've got a thing about having a white controller, so I remember having the white Wii U controller and playing Twilight Princess and all those Smash Bros. Yeah, that was my controller. Alright, moving on, we've got, this has bugged me, it's all out of order, but we've got the Xbox 360. So you got the controller, what are your thoughts of the 360?
See, personally, I sort of enjoy this controller more than the Wii U Pro controller, but yeah, I think it's I don't know if it's my favourite Xbox controller. I think I prefer the Xbox One remote over this, but at the time, this was a great controller. I played tons of like Street Fighter on it. I really like the D-pads on these. I've heard a lot of people say they don't like them, but I think they're great. The thumbsticks feel... It actually is sort of a more of a compact controller, but everything feels spaced out enough on it. Plus it's got the big shiny Xbox button, otherwise thought it was cool.
Especially when you turn the console on, it does a little ring of lights. It's really awesome. So yeah, the 360, that's pretty much my console that I had. So I've had a lot of game time with the 360 controller, which definitely set the standard for Xbox controllers to follow. So we haven't got to it, but the Duke and then the the revised original Xbox controller. It took that, it made it a bit more sleeker. It gave it four shoulder buttons, which was, you know, the way controllers were heading. It added, I believe, possibly, yeah, the first time it added a headphone attachment to the bottom, which is not a headphone jack, but the official Xbox headset would plug into that. So that was cool. The only downside for me is that back. I know it's got the battery pack compartment on the back. You know, sometimes when I pick it up now, I feel it just gets in the way. But that's just, you know, with all the controllers now, get the luxury of it having just that clear back. But
I'll say too though, a lot of experience with 360 remotes is a lot of battery changing.
yes, it does chew up a lot of battery. And if your controller gets a lot of wear and tear and that battery compartment becomes a bit unstable in there, it's going to be a lot of frustrating play, like I believe one of these controllers are.
Probably that one. I was just showing off.
Because if you make even the slightest bump to that battery compartment, you're going to get on-screen prompt to say, leave me batteries. But, with that said, if we're going to just take this controller as in mint condition, I would put it in the A tier.
I'd put it yeah.
Or maybe the highest B.
Yeah. I'd be more comfortable with that.
The highest B. The 360, I mean, it's yeah, it like I said, it took what Xbox was doing and made it sleeker, and you can definitely see the similarities to some of the Nintendo controllers which come out of that sleekness of this. So that's cool. But next up, the Duke. We do have a Duke, but it's not here in the studio. I need to get it into the studio. The Duke. I wonder if it'll still work on that.
I have used these before.
Yep.
Not a fan.
The way that these buttons are placed are very weird. You can see they're kind of slanted. Right on top of that, it's big. It is a big boy, this controller.
That big Xbox logo in the middle is not. It's just decorative.
Yeah, if that lit up, that would have made a difference, but it will at least look cool.
Yeah.
Not the worst, no.
It's not the worst, but
Oh,
I don't think.
I think the lowest C.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't put it on the B, because when you do hold it, actually,
It
because
does
it's so
sort of
big,
fit.
it just fits naturally, being a big thing to hold. Yeah. But now we've got an Elite Xbox controller, so I've actually never held an Elite.
I don't think I have either.
So I
I've never
won't be
felt-
able to rank it.
I've never felt the need to buy one actually.
But I do know a lot of the Elite features were carried on to which we'll get to in a moment.
I've actually heard.
I just didn't want to fork out $200 for a controller. to be
No,
honest.
I've heard some people have had issues with them too.
I feel it's just like, you know, pro gamers. That's their controller. They can modify it. They got the triggers at the back, which I don't feel I need.
It feels a bit gimmicky.
Yeah,
A bit of a gimmick.
but hey, people buy it.
Gamers.
Xbox One.
Xbox One. I really like the Xbox One remote.
Xbox One. Bit
I think
dirty.
I think it's super comfortable. I like it much more than the 360 remote. And you look at the Series X remote, it's basically the same thing but with some elite features and stuff. I wouldn't feel out of place putting this in the A tier.
Agreed. Yeah, it just took everything that the 360 had, made it. It's bigger than the controller. The 360 is.
Yes.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Oh, they're about the
Almost the same, but it's just refined it and put it in that shape. That
it's filled out the sort of round curves that the 360 has.
Yep. Nothing really wrong with the controller, really.
No.
I know you get a lot of people you see saying that, Xbox controllers still use battery packs, but I actually prefer the battery packs. Because if you run out of battery, all you do is need to just swap it out with a new battery in, instead of sitting there trying to charge it.
Yes.
And then you can get the rechargeable packs anyway, so take that, PlayStation beans.
Series
which
X remote.
leads us from that to the Series X remote. Series X, this is the one that came with my Series S. Same thing, but white to the black. And guess what?
Whoa.
Made a change. This is my S tier controller. Basically everything I said about the Wii U one, how comfortable, how natural it feels. It's added some grip to the triggers, it's got some grip to the back of it. It's added the D-pad with all the directional advantages that the Elite controller had. Yeah, it's basically what that previous controller is, and then just added those extra features. Added the share button, so now you can just share, record clips just like that. I can't fault this controller at all.
It's just basically the
It's the same
perfect
thing. I do like that grip texture at the back. I think that's very helpful.
Yeah.
The exact same shape and size as the Xbox One, with those extra features, and especially when we're playing things like GTA and something happens, it's very helpful to just press that button to record the clip. But that's my S tier, the new Xbox controller. Which brings us to
Final remote. That's
the Xbox.
That's an unofficial one.
Yep.
But
So
it's
this,
roughly the same design.
yeah, same. So this is the Xbox S controller to make things more confusing. But yeah, we've had a bit of experience with the Xbox S controller. Had more experience with this controller than the original Duke.
Yep.
And I'm glad about that because, yeah, as we said, the Duke's not that very good.
You can just look at all the face buttons. It's all just set up a million times better.
Yep. It's yeah, more conventional. It's got the black and white buttons, which are down the bottom there. That's the only thing that's a bit out of place. Because it does lack the top two shoulders, but it does have the triggers. But the this controller, I mean, it set the standard of what this here is, and then which leads to that and that. It's a lot more comfortable to hold than that.
I'm definitely thinking B tier. Somewhere towards the middle there.
Probably above that. It's a lot more comfortable holding the PlayStation, the 6 axes. It's probably more comfortable than that one actually. It's just the way that it's laid out, like this one is just very cramped, and then this has got this sort of curve to it. I'll be more than happy to put it above PS2 controller. Yeah, it's got the that's where the memory card slots are as well on the controller, so shares similarities with the 64. But that looks like our list.
That's it.
At the top the Gamecube and the Xbox Series X controllers. Down the bottom the NES, the PSPs and the Joycons and everything in between. Pretty good list. So yeah, let us know what you think of this list. If you've got your own list or any complaints, which you probably do, just let us know. But that's all for now. Thanks for watching our tier list, and we'll see you back here on the channel for another one very soon.